And it was a very bold, spicy tweet. The hook was, nobody gives a fuck if you donate to charity, which is as bold as you can get. Welcome back to another episode of D2C Diaries, episode 49.
Yeah, you almost got the 50.
Oh, almost.
Should we pause here?
We had grand plans for the 50th episode, which may have ended up being pushed back slightly, but that's another topic anyway. Martyn, great to have you here. We've got Martyn from Noobru on. Going to dive into journey, a few unique topics that we've not spoken about on previous episodes that you've got some really interesting insights. So yeah, thank you for coming on. I'm really excited to jump into it. I think.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's nice to be on the other side of the lens. I'm an avid watcher of your show. It's top level. It's high quality. So it's great.
We've been talking about getting you on for a while now, haven't we? I remember we were at that dinner probably 6 to 8 months ago.
Yeah, that's right.
And spent most of the dinner just trying to get you onto the podcast.
And here we are.
Yeah, living the dream.
Originally met in Barcelona, I think we were just saying, and then went on a bit of an interesting yacht trip together when we first started working together, I think after that.
That yacht trip was sick.
Yeah.
You need to top that somehow.
Yeah, sailing around Croatia, which was interesting.
It was funny. I've heard a lot about this yacht trip, but never any specifics.
Can't speak about it, man.
Yeah.
Can't be spoken about.
What happens on the yacht stays on the yacht.
Yeah, it's felt like that.
Being a founder of an e-commerce business is a constant grind, as a lot of our listeners will know. You're the marketer, you're the accountant, you're juggling many, many things. And one of the biggest problems that we see in most e-com brands is cash flow. So let's say you've got an ad campaign that's absolutely crushing, but you don't have the capital to be able to pour more money into it. Or let's say you're about to run out your best-selling product and you needed to restock like yesterday.
We know so many founders that have tried the traditional route. They've gone to banks and been told to come back in a couple of years when they've got more history. Or they go to traditional investors and they spend more time pitching than actually running the business. They thought there was no other option and that funding always meant giving up control.
That's where Wayflyer come in. They understand the speed and unique needs of e-commerce. They give you the funding you need based on your business's performance, not endless paperwork. And it's non-dilutive financing, which means you don't have to sell a single share of your company. No one wants to give away their equity, and you get to keep all of it, which is something you've worked so hard for.
Plus, they give you more than just cash. They give you access to insights and analytics so you know how to best spend your newfound capital to drive growth.
I think I can speak on behalf of Olly and I here. So many of the brands we have worked with have used Wayflyer at inflection points within their business to help them scale to multiple 8 or even 9 figures in revenue.
It's not just a loan, it's a partner in growth. So if you're a founder looking to scale up without giving away equity, it's time to check out wayflyer.com in the description below. Yeah, excited to dive into, I guess, Noobru and your own mission. I think some really interesting things to talk about today. I really want to dive into a bit about the brand and product journey, the mission, the charitable mission that underpins a lot of what you do, and that's something we've not covered. And then dive into the nitty gritty of funnels, advertorials, affiliates, and upsell cross-sells for everybody who's watching. So yeah, really excited to dive into that. But I guess to start, it'd be really great to give the audience just a top level overview of Noobru, the journey, a bit about the brand's background, if that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say I'm a bit of a serial entrepreneur. So Noobru's not like my first e-commerce brand. It's probably like my 4th e-commerce brand, but some of them were like in the early days were sort of drop shipping. The common theme with the earlier ones was that whilst they were successful in creating money, that I wasn't necessarily passionate about them. So the most recent e-commerce brand before Noobru was a brand called U Statement, which was literally like print-on-demand leggings. Like I'd done a lot selling like print-on-demand t-shirts and so on. I was like, right, okay, I'm going to move into leggings. It's a less crowded space, and I worked with some great suppliers and so on. And it did really well, but the thing for me was like, I don't really understand why people wear their feelings on their leg. I don't wear leggings myself, not even at the weekend. I just, and like, it wasn't really, I didn't feel like it was like serving any higher purpose or any greater mission. And so I sold that in 2018 and basically bought myself the luxury of time to really think about like, what do I want to do next that is actually impactful? So from that point, I had this floor to ceiling whiteboard in the sort of bedroom / office where I was working out of at the time. And I was just adding my thoughts to it. I didn't know what I wanted to build, but I was sort of thinking about the components of what I wanted to build. So I was like, right, I want it to be consumable. Okay, so it goes up on the board, like consumable. I want it to be delicious or like an experience. I'm like, okay, fine, fucking all right, I'll write it on the board kind of thing. And this board gradually began to fill up. And, I had things like, who do I want to serve? Well, I want my customers to be in the segments that I'm from. So I'm an entrepreneur, right? I want them to be an audience, but I'm also a cricketer. Okay, I want to be able to serve them as well. And gradually, like over time, it began to take shape. It's like, wow, okay, I'm looking at something that looks like a nootropic company. Okay, let's delve into that. And this was in sort of 2019 at this point. And there wasn't a lot of nootropic companies out there. And the ones that were pill-based. And I don't know about you guys, I don't particularly enjoy taking pills. And then I did research and they're not super efficient. Like only about half of what you consume in pill form actually sort of gets absorbed because of the way like it doesn't break down, so it's much lower in your digestive tract. There's no experience element to it. So I thought, right, okay, I'm somewhere around that. So fast forward, Noobru began to sort of take shape on that whiteboard. But the biggest thing for me was, right, what's the higher purpose, right? What's the thing that will get me out of bed on those cold, dark, scary days where shit's hitting the fan, everything's going badly. And that's where I was like, right, it's all about mission. And so one of the strands on this whiteboard was all about like purpose and mission. What's the thing that will help the world as a result of my brand being successful in said world, right? And I started looking at really, really big world problems, and malnutrition was one that sort of hit me. It was 2 billion person problem, so about a quarter of the world. It's like, wow, that's really, really high. So started looking at that, and I know we're going to get into that later on, so I won't touch too heavily. But the other things on the board which were really important to me and for Noobru was that I wanted it to be. I didn't want to leave like footprints as a result of being successful. So what I mean by that is like, say everything was wrapped in plastic. Well, the more sachets we sell, the more plastic we're putting out into the world. So I didn't want that. So we're an eco-friendly packaged brand. I've got one here. So it's like, it's like paper-based packaging and so on, the same on the inside.
Yeah.
And so a load of things like that. But it all started with this whiteboard and doing it the opposite way, not going, I want to do this company. What does that look like? It was like, I want my company to be these things. What company is that?
A lot more introspective than I think a lot of people probably are when they're trying to. I feel like a lot of people enter D2C through the lens of like, where's the opportunity, where's the market to enter, rather than doing that introspective work. I just think that's a really interesting and probably more purpose-led way of thinking about things.
Yeah, it's like that ikigai, isn't it? Like really finding what you want to do, what the world needs, and that's what brings the longevity to that mission. Because similarly with the leggings brand, if it's not something you're truly passionate about, like when you hit those first hurdles, you just be like, fuck this. So it really helps kind of drive that, longevity of the brand and the mission.
Similar to you and Club Neuro, really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've like started brands in the past and I'm just not the target consumer. It's nothing I'm truly interested in, and as a result, like you just don't have that like real drive and fire within to continue driving it forward.
I think so. One of the challenging questions, which I think any entrepreneur thinking about starting a brand should answer, is what could I build that would keep my interest for a minimum of 5 years? Yeah. Now, for me, I hadn't done anything for 5 years, right? And I think any business had kept my attention for 5 years. We're all entrepreneurs. Shiny object syndrome is super real. And so that was like one of the challenging questions. But also, based off of my experience with the previous brands, I was fully aware of like the diminishing returns of just money. Like say you chase money when you launch a company. Well, it may be the first 50 grand a year that you make is like that's super important. That's your food on the table. That's your shelter. The next 50 grand might be like a slightly better version of that, you know, slightly nicer food, slightly nicer shelter and so on. The next 50 grand might be shiny objects, you know, like gadgets and fun shit toys. But after that, it's kind of like diminishing, right? And so a lot of people sort of chase the money and then they're like, well, actually, I have plenty of money and this isn't fulfilling me. Whereas if you then go up like the next step, okay, what's my higher purpose? What's my mission? Philanthropy, giving back, legacy. When you start sort of answering and looking at those kind of questions, that's where, like for me at least, it took me down this charitable road. And I know we'll get into it, but like for us, it was malnourished children and tackling that.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect segue to dive into this like concept of like units of good that underpins obviously your business through that lens of that charitable mission. I obviously shared this with you prior to the episode, but I actually saw a hot take on Twitter from Dylan Ander, who's founder of Heatmap. Had him on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and it was a very bold, spicy tweet. The hook was nobody gives a fuck if you donate to charity, which is I guess as bold as you can get. And he kind of dived into like just talked about the concept of like consumers becoming more savvy online, and that like it's not as easy to leverage a charity or a mission as an angle for acquisition, or an angle to improve results, or an angle to drive growth for businesses, and it's more about like product and story of founder, for example. Just thought it was very interesting to use that as a springboard for this discussion and get your thoughts on that as a take.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all about the lens that you see it through, right? So if you see charity through the lens of how can I leverage charity for me? How can I use charity to make my stuff better? That's one lens. That's not the lens I see it through. I wanted to literally build the company so that a percentage of revenue, not even profit, revenue from day one was going to a greater cause. And if that, as a result of the charitable impact, has a positive effect on the brand, great. But it was really about this bigger impact. And so, as I said, global malnutrition was the area that I was I felt compelled to tackle. But then I wanted to get into like okay, so which charity am I going to support? Well, there's loads of charities out there, and some of the charities are really good at making money, but they aren't necessarily great at getting that money to the front lines, as it were. And then there's other charities that are really good at like tackling the problem, but they're not so good at raising the money. And then there's other charities that like really the problem they're trying to solve actually isn't that big a problem. You know, repairing flip-flops of Californian feet on the beaches or something like kind of thing, right? Like I'm sure that's really useful, but like it's not necessarily a big impactful thing. So that took me down like a journey, and I ended up using there's a website called I think it's givewell.org or something, but it ranks charities. So it's like an independent like auditing thing that ranks charities. And that surfaced Project Healthy Children, who are now called Sanku. That led me to reaching out to the founder and interviewing the founder, Felix, to see, you know, about the impact of what they're doing. And that cemented for me that's where we want to go. And so we could have stopped there, and we could have said, right, you know, percentage of revenue, percentage of profit goes to the charity, and left it there. And I think that's where a lot of brands I think that's a mistake. I think you're one step away from making that really, really good, but you haven't got to the point where you have got clear on what your unit of good is. And so what I mean by unit of good, say to like the people listening to the show, say there's something you're passionate about. For example, it's removing plastic from the ocean. So you could say, right, I'm giving a percentage of my profit to removing plastic from the ocean. Great. You could go one step further, and you could interview whoever is doing the plastic removal. Maybe I think these companies, there's like people they employ who spend their time like removing plastic from like beaches and stuff often. Okay, great. How much do you pay those people? Okay, I pay them $10 an hour. Okay, great. on average, how much plastic do they remove in per hour? Okay, if they remove, say, 1 kilogram of plastic or 5 kilograms of plastic, whatever that is. Okay, great. So now you can begin to get to a maths where for every dollar that I give to the charity, it equals this many kilograms, or you could go one down grams, so that it sounds like more, and you could be like, okay, cool. So now you've got, you can work out how much your money is, converted into units of good. And in this case, it'd be grams of plastic, say. Mm-hmm. So now you can communicate to your customers, when you buy this, it removes, 500 grams of plastic from the ocean. You can communicate to your staff, like, hey, yesterday we removed, 100 kilograms of plastic from the ocean. You can communicate to stakeholders, potential partners. You can, what we did was we were very public. We said, right, we want to fortify. So ours is fortifying meals for malnourished children. So our unit of good is meals, fortified. We fortified now over 250 million meals for malnourished children. Our target's 1 billion. But we've had that target. So in 2020, we were like, our mission is to fortify 1 billion meals for malnourished children, right? So now we've got a ticker on the website, like a counter that's going up. We talk in terms of that. We've even worked with celebrities. For example, Randy Couture, we worked with him a couple of years ago, and I'm not sure we would have got that deal had it not been for an element of part of the deal. In addition to the money and the whatever else, we pledged to fortify 10 million meals for malnourished children in his name, and that was part of the press release. And so he feels good, rightfully so, as being a part of that mission. And so going back to the tweet, if you're just looking in terms of like, oh yeah, I'm just going to slap on my website, like, donating money to charity and expect all of the numbers we want to go up, I agree with them. I don't think that quite makes sense. But when you communicate to the customer, here's the mission, here's why it's important, here's what impact your purchase is going to make today, here's what we've done so far, you start seeing your AOV, like the halo effect is your AOV goes up because they buy more. If you make mistakes, your customers are probably a bit more forgiving because they know that you're trying to do your best, and so that they know you're basically good. They talk about you. They might choose you over your competitors, and you're more likely to be able to create partnerships because you can talk about kind of the charitable elements and so on. But go into it just thinking of like, how can I do good and how can I just align it with my business so that it doesn't negatively impact my business, like it's too much of a cash drain, and just make it so that the more successful you are, the more successful the good that you create is.
Yeah, it's like what's clear is you have built that within the bowels of the organization, like deep within, rather than just putting something on a website. And I think the opposite to this is like, people might leverage charity to drive sales, but it sounds like you've flipped to that where you're leveraging the business to drive the mission.
Yeah, exactly. So Noobru could go under tonight, but no one can take away the fact that we fortified more than 250 million meals for malnourished children, and I'm really, really proud of that. Yes, we've got delicious product. Yes, we have raving customers, and essay length reviews come in every single day about how much our product has changed the lives of that person, how much it's helped them. But for me, the thing I'm most proud of is that impact that we've had on this huge world problem of malnutrition.
Yeah, I think it's like not just seeing it as a marketing angle, right? It's like done with intention. It's an exercise in execution as well, like actually committing to doing it properly, committing to really going to the depths that you have, rather than just like just putting a charity scheme on a site. All of the replies, which I agree with, is like, you also just don't do everything for results, right? It's like not everything has to be there to drive some metric. It's like, it just feels good to do things.
Yeah, I mean,
for the right reason at times.
And there's plenty of things in the business that you do, right? Like you might have like a staff retreat and take everybody. You can't necessarily like tangibly see the ROI of like taking everybody off to the Philippines for a staff retreat or whatever, but you know that like actually that's a good thing, and it's going to have an effect on morale. It's going to have an effect on productivity. People are going to feel happier, working for you. But yeah, you don't just go out into that going, what's my ROI on in this case, charity.
Yeah. Do you see that being, life mission? So even after Noobru, like will that continue living through into your next venture?
Well, I hope that wherever Noobru goes, whether I'm at the helm or not, I hope that mission stays with Noobru. In terms of units of good, I will find the next one that I care about for the next thing after Noobru, I think.
Makes sense. I wanted to switch gears to more tactical marketing, which obviously I'm sure we can extract some real key learnings for everybody watching. I think what's been most noticeable to me throughout like our conversations since meeting is I guess like your like focus and the amount of time and resource you've put into sort of incremental wins throughout your customer journey, and the kind of care and attention that goes into everything post click. I think it's something that's very unique. So I'd love to hear a bit about like how have you sort of thought about that process for like optimizing customer journeys?
Absolutely.
And for acquisition.
So going back, so I've actually written a book called 1% Secret, and this is a few years back. And if anybody watching wants one, just like ping me and I'll send you a digital copy. But this wasn't for any reason other than it was like in my brain and I wanted to get it out into the world. And the premise of 1% Secret is that big wins don't necessarily come from like big swings, like I doubled this good result or I halved this bad result. Those things absolutely happen. But actually a lot of positive results come from the compounding effect of like incremental changes. And so like at the beginning of the book, I show how like on a customer journey, by improving each step of that customer journey by just 1% actually results in a 400% increase in like ROAS or like positive return. And so the premise of the book, there's 50 chapters, and each chapter focuses on one area of your life or business and shows examples and ways that you can improve it by actually far more than 1%. So actually, if you focused on 50 areas, like one per week for a year of your business and your life, and improve them by just 1%, the compounding effect of 1% times 1% times 1% across all of that is absolutely huge, absolutely game changing. And I think a lot of the time in business, sort of not really knowing what to focus on is the problem. So you have a funnel and you might sort of look a little bit at CRO, a little bit at ads, a little bit at AOV or, upsells or whatever, conversion rate. And because you're just scraping the surface, you don't really have the impact. Whereas if you literally map out, like we have a Google sheet, again, I can share it to anybody that wants it, where you just put in your numbers. Okay, so here's the CPC that I'm getting. Here's the advertorial click-through rate. Here's the product page conversion rate. Here's the AOV. Here's the upsell take rate. Here's, say, the repeat purchase and so on. And then you can go, right, what happens if I improve this area by say 10% in this case or something? How does that affect my funnels? Okay, what about if it was this area? What about if it was this area? And what you end up finding is like the weak link in your funnel, like the one thing where actually if you improve that has a much higher impact on your overall ROAS or whatever than the other areas, right? Like if you're already getting say £1 CPCs or 50p CPCs, it's a little bit, it's hard to get half that, right? Whereas if your conversion rates are, say, 0.5% or 1%, I feel like getting one extra person out of 100 to buy your product is a much easier thing, and yet that will double your results. And so by mapping that out, you can then go, okay, my problem is say it's an AOV problem. Okay, great. It's an AOV problem. So now you can hyper-focus just on AOV. You can focus down in customer messaging in terms of the quantities they should buy. You can focus down on your upsell flow. We also have like post-purchase, like chat upsell flows as well. But you can go right AOV. You can study up on AOV, and that's all you live and breathe for like a week to a month or something. It's just AOV, 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 because you've done that work in advance, and you know that that's the area, that's the 1%. That's the thing that you want to, improve.
Yeah, it's like that philosophy is the same as David Brailsford, the Olympic cycling coach who came in when the British Olympic cycling team were just not competing, not competitive, and his philosophy was improve everything by 1%, whether that's the pillows everyone sleeps on, all of these small, tiny, subtle changes that actually, when compound, make the biggest difference, and then went on to be, the most successful cycling team of all time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of the times people are chasing, double this. You get disappointed because you start a diet and you haven't lost, half your fat overnight. Whereas if you think about it sort of longer term, nobody got fat by eating a burger, right? But you get fat by eating a burger a day or a week, right? Over a longer period of time, right? And the reverse is true as well. And it's just these incremental things. And so you start thinking longer term. And if you can just sort of bake that into your processes and be like, right, I want to lose weight. Okay, so I'm going to figure out how I can just have a calorie deficit of 100 calories a day. That's it. I'm just going to be, a deficit of 100. And I know now over 3 months, I'm actually going to be in way better shape, or I'm going to have lost a lot of weight compared to now, rather than trying to think, how can I half my weight by tomorrow kind of thing, which is unrealistic.
I think mapping out that, I call it a 30,000 foot view of the business through a data lens is really important as well. It's kind of an exercise in just increasing throughput, and to increase throughput, you need to focus on the biggest bottleneck to achieve that outcome. And it's do you think it's important to often? I think a good example of this is, which we always mention, is that lens of people just continue to make more and more creative without stepping back and looking at the fact that they're not getting in front of any new audiences. And the data is the guide to where you want to spend time optimizing. I think is a really simple, but people don't do it enough, even though it is a simple view to take.
100%. And you're the guy. Well, you guys are the guys, right? Creative and creative data. There's a reason so many people work with you guys.
On the funnels piece, we've spoken about it a few times in previous episodes, but whitelisting is a huge area of focus right now for a lot of brands. I think Advertorials is something that you have always done very well and at large volume. How have you approached Advertorials as a method of acquisition?
Yeah, so we've done Advertorials for quite a long time. So an Advertorial, I remember before I get into that. So I remember someone saying, I don't know the source of this, but essentially the art of selling is disguising the fact that you're selling for as long as possible, right? So the second someone knows that they're being sold to, a barrier goes up, or the brain starts working differently, and it's I'm being sold to, I'm in a sales process. And so a VSL is an educational video, but it's a sales letter disguises that. Same with podcast VSLs. An advertorial kind of looks like an article, but actually it's more of a sales letter, shall we say. Now, advertorials have their place. If I was selling something like a Rolex or a beautiful diamond ring, you could definitely use advertorials, but I probably wouldn't. I'd sell them visually, right? You can see visually how nice they look, and I would lean into that. But there's consumables in particular, it's very, very difficult to demonstrate what the difference is between your brain working as it should, or even slightly better than it should, which is what nootropics can bring you when done right, which is obviously the space we're in with Noobru. It's difficult to kind of show that visually, but it's much easier to tell a story about a person or some of the people that you have helped, and telling their story. And so therefore you need a medium where you can tell a story. And so advertorials, VSLs are both great places to tell that story. So that's what an advertorial is. In terms of why we use it, we found that taking someone, say, from a Facebook ad, and let's be clear, most people are consuming your Facebook ads whilst kind of zombified on a sofa, or sitting on a toilet, or taking a bus somewhere, or killing time in some way, right? They're in a sort of there isn't any emotion going on. They're just kind of browsing through their phone for some kind of stimulation.
Doom scrolling.
Yeah, doom scrolling. And so if you get that click and then they're straight on your product page, I think a lot of the time that's quite a jump. You're taking them from that kind of place to a place where they're going to get their credit card out and whatever. And emotion drives motion, and there isn't any emotion yet. And so by adding in an advertorial, it works as a transition between that sort of low emotional, laying on the sofa state, and a fuck yeah, I need this, right, kind of state. And so that, I mean, that's the art of it. In terms of why it works, I think telling that story, and if you've done your advertorial right, and you're targeting spot on, you're going to be describing the story of someone who's very, very similar to that person who has seen the ad, right? And so it's like, oh damn, that sounds like me. That's kind of what they want from the advertorial. And so when they read that story, that okay, that sounds like me. I have that challenge. I have that problem. And then it begins to present and reveal the solution, and then you can then pivot into the product page.
And are you how much are you dialing in that process in regards to like splitting off personas per advertorial, the traffic that you're sending to each of those individually? What does that look like?
Yeah, so we've got a number of, so we've got it took us a long time to get to a kind of level of advertorial, like format of advertorial that we were happy with. So we came up with a metric called advertorial click-through rate. And so advertorial click-through rate is the number of people who leave via one of your call to actions on your advertorial, divided by the total number of visitors that came into your advertorial. There's a caveat here. If you just had an advertorial which was just a giant button that just said next, you'll have a very high click-through rate, but your advertorials hasn't had a chance to do its job. So you want to balance that your call to actions are much lower down the advertorial, and so they've actually consumed some of the content, and they're actually warmed up before they see and therefore can click on a call to action to take them to the next page. So with that in mind, we did a lot of optimization around getting to a click-through rate that we were happy with. And so for us, that's around about 40%. And so if you do your ads right, you can map out the metrics. So say you're getting, £1 clicks, and you've got, to keep my maths easy because it's early in the morning, a 50% click-through rate on your advertorial. That it's £1, you're losing half the people, but your cost to product page view is about £2 per visitor, right? So you're getting them to the product page for £2, but they've also been warmed up, and they're more likely to be in that emotional state where they're primed and ready to actually listen and consume what you presented. And so it's just a numbers game. So once you've got that in mind, you can then branch out into like different avatars. And so the product that you're selling, say it's a fragrance. I imagine how you would speak to, I imagine how you would speak to a guy looking to be more attractive, perhaps to the opposite sex, versus someone who's looking to keep hold of their favorite fragrance, but like is really tired of the massive price tag that comes with that, Burberry perfume or whatever. How you would talk to each of those people and what that appeals to them is very different. And so crafting your story around that is really important. So it's an alignment. So if you're running a funnel to the first example there, everything needs to be aligned. The ad needs to be talking to that person. The advertorial is telling that story. And then ideally the product page is also aligned to that. And it's highlighting, the attractive qualities, the reviews that you're highlighting on your product page. You're talking about other customers that, as a result of buying your amazing fragrance, they've had so much luck with in the dating market or so on.
That's amazing. I love that. I love like the creation of that KPI that you guys had worked through. That very, very interesting. Any like just very tangible tips for people to, I guess, increase that click-through rate of when you've got the customer on or the consumer on the advertorial?
Absolutely. So when you start creating your advertorial, the wrong way to do it is to just look at what is working for other people and just kind of clone their style and their design. What I would encourage everyone to do is to look at the media, particularly the written media that they're consuming. So like the online newspapers, the online magazines, things like that. So the audience that you're going after, are they consuming, say, Cosmopolitan online, or are they consuming like the Wall Street Journal online? That's the kind of style that you want to be looking at then with your advertorial. Is it Is it a sort of very, very minimal kind of like black font on white, narrow, or is it more of a sort of colourful, vibrant, lots of photos, that kind of thing, right? So that's the style. That's a tangible way that you can find the style of your advertorial. Our click-through rate went up about 5% when we increased the font size. That was an interesting one.
Yeah.
And then the biggest levers in terms of getting the click-through rate up on your advertorial is the headline, subheadline, image combination. So it's like the first three elements that are above the fold. When they land on your advertorial, the first thing you're trying to get them to do is to start scrolling, right? And so you have to hook them in terms of curiosity. Like, is this worth my time? Am I intrigued by what you're presenting with the headline, subheadline? So that's a big lever for getting that up. And we've tested 30, 40, 50 combinations of these in the past to get that sort of winning formula for that funnel, for that audience that we're going after.
Very cool.
Yeah, I think it's a really powerful way to just capture more. It's like a truly cold traffic funnel as well when you can get it to work. It's like really helps you with new customer eyeballs and growth. You know, if you're struggling to convert people like right at the top of the awareness phases, it can accelerate that customer journey and improve results. Obviously you guys are doing it really well. I think Pet Lab's another one that is kind of a classic example of someone who's always just running so many advertorials, so many listicles. There's another one people can go and reference and look at.
Being a founder of an e-commerce business is a constant grind, as a lot of our listeners will know. You're the marketer, you're the accountant, you're juggling many, many things. And one of the biggest problems that we see in most e-com brands is cash flow. So let's say you've got an ad campaign that's absolutely crushing, but you don't have the capital to be able to pour more money into it. Or let's say you're about to run out your best-selling product and you needed to restock like yesterday.
We know so many founders that have tried the traditional route. They've gone to banks and been told to come back in a couple of years when they've got more history. Or they go to traditional investors and they spend more time pitching than actually running the business. They thought there was no other option and that funding always meant giving up control.
That's where Wayflyer come in. They understand the speed and unique needs of e-commerce. They give you the funding you need based on your business's performance, not endless paperwork. And it's non-dilutive financing, which means you don't have to sell a single share of your company. No one wants to give away their equity, and you get to keep all of it, which is something you've worked so hard for.
Plus, they give you more than just cash. They give you access to insights and analytics so you know how to best spend your newfound capital to drive growth.
I think I can speak on behalf of Olly and I here. So many of the brands we have worked with have used Wayflyer at inflection points within their business to help them scale to multiple 8 or even 9 figures in revenue.
It's not just a loan, it's a partner in growth. So if you're a founder looking to scale up without giving away equity, it's time to check out wayflyer.com in the description below.
Anyone who, because again, like with your product, it's very problem solution. We can go more emotive with, those advertorials, with the messaging. Any types of brands that you feel shouldn't go into, say, advertorials?
So I think, even those examples, those very, very visual brands, I think, whilst I probably wouldn't start with those because I think, visually you can do a much better job of selling them. You can still talk about the emotional side of, for example, owning a Rolex and like why you might get into it. So I think there's a place for advertorials for any product. But I think if your product is more of a product that sells itself best with stories, that's when you would lean into advertorials. And if your product is more of a product where actually a demo of it is a better way and before and after photos and things like that is a better way, then I probably wouldn't tackle advertorials as my first funnel style.
Yeah. Have you done any from your perspective as the founder?
No, and actually, that even on that yacht, I was talking about one of our products. So we have a product called Zeus, which is a prostate support product, and we are unapologetically, like for that product, we are unapologetically masculine. The idea is like you drink your Zeus juice and you're powerful because men, like we're just shit at doing stuff that helps us, right? And we're really, really poor at talking about problems, and it's like stiff upper lip and, pretend there's nothing wrong. And so we were sort of like tongue in cheek. We made it almost like fun to consume. And on there is actually a video from me talking about the emotional reason that I created Zeus, which was that I lost my granddad to prostate cancer, and my dad is high risk as well. And so we wanted to produce something. I wanted to make something that could help in that space. And I had the video there, and actually on the yacht, some of the guys were watching it, and they were like, "Why don't you do this more?" And you're like, "Yeah, you're right. I'm fucking stupid. Why haven't I done this more?" And so it's something. A year later, it's on my to-do list still to lean into it. We actually did film a load of founders ads actually the other week, but I haven't yet seen how they've come out.
Exciting. Well, yeah, they're just continuing to rip. So yeah.
So another area which I think we've spoken previously about, that where you do things just a little bit differently to others is on that in the realm of like upsells and cross sells. Again, we haven't really touched on this on the pod previously, but I think it's a highly under leveraged part of the customer journey. Obviously, when people have already got the wallet out, purchased the products, like you've got them as hot as they're ever going to be in terms of extracting more value from that customer, whether that's higher AOV, more contribution margin, whatever that looks like per order. How are you thinking about that? I mean, we've touched on like more persona driven upsell process. I'd love to dive into a bit of that.
Yeah, well, first off, I think if you're not doing upsells, I think that's a huge area that could lift your business massively. I think a good upsell can add 30 to 50% and more. Definitely, there's people who are crushing with an upsell sequence to your AOV. And so, if you think of the difference, say your AOV is like £70, £80 now, and you could get that to, 120, £150, like what would that affect? Again, you can put it into that same Google sheet I referred to earlier on. What's the effect on your funnel there if you're collecting extra revenue? I imagine it would be huge. A post-purchase upsell, you've already got that first purchase. It doesn't affect, whereas like if you made a tweak to your advertorial to get more people to your product page, it's not always linear, right? If you get 10% more people to your product page, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get 10% more orders. If you increase your upsell take rate, that always improves your funnel because it's happened after they've purchased that first thing. So I would recommend it to absolutely anyone. Now, the technology available for it, I don't think is always quite there. And so ours is entirely custom, which has its pros and its cons. So we're able to create really, really agile upsells, like presented in exactly the way we want. We have, I think, 10 or 15 different upsell templates that we rotate through, and we're really trying to create a post-purchase sequence that is crafted to the exact persona that is come in and ordered from us. But obviously that's a little bit more clunky and takes a little bit more time. So it's, pros and cons of it. But to answer your question, the first upsell is one that anybody can do. And it's always, like I say, always 80% of the time, I would say, just try more of the same.
Yeah.
So whatever they've just bought, more of the same. And you think, okay, well, what if I'm selling something where they really don't need more than one? Well, they've got friends, they've got family. If they think it's a cool thing or a great thing or a valuable thing, then surely they want to also give that value to their friends and family. They might want more than one because if it's a consumable, maybe they want one for their car or for their office as well as at home. So there's a lot of reasons why more of the same is something they want. Or it might just be that they're completely sold on the value and now you're presenting them more of the same for them at a much better price.
It's always surprised me how effective that is, just offering the same products at a slight discount. Obviously, a lot of the time it's that exclusive, you position it as like an exclusive, one time, etc. But it's, even if you sold them like 6 of something, it's baffling how many people will just be like, oh, I'll have another 3 of those.
I think as long as you give them a tangible reason why, why they might want more of that thing, and show them. And so you can, mine your customer data and your reviews and so on and see if there's any like snippets there where someone's giving you a clue as to, why they might have bought more than one. You might sell t-shirts and they might be like, well, I really love that t-shirt and I wear it all the time. And actually I get really sad when it's in the wash because I can't wear it that day, and that's why I bought a second one, so that like even when one's being washed I can wear the other one, right? There's lots of reasons
almost.
Yeah.
What do you think some of those quick wins are for brands that are looking to optimize around upsells?
So I think, well, first off, having upsells, playing with the offer on the upsell, depending on obviously the software you're using. you can present like a discounted, like, hey, do you want one more, but now it's 50% off. It might be that you can play with like a 3 for 2 or a buy one get one, or like it's a bundle where it's the thing they bought, but with some other things. The 20%, like I said 80% is just more of the same is great. The 20% is a product or offering, because it doesn't even have to be like a physical product. It could be digital, it could be service based, and so on, that solves the problem that your main product has created, like unwittingly, right? And so it might be that your main product, this works really well for kind of like digital stuff. It might be that your main product is, say, I don't know, we're going to create a load of ads for you. Well, the problem that might now create is, okay, I've got a load of ads, but now I need to launch them. So your upsell might be like, it goes from like, we've made you a load of ads, so now we're actually going to implement them for you, or we're going to teach you the system to make a load your own. So, you can look at the problem that your primary product creates and then sell to the secondary thing. But I wouldn't limit your upsell sequence to just one upsell as well. I think you could go up to 3. Some people go even further than that. And so the first one might be more of the same. The second one then is a cross sell. So the upsell 2 would be kind of a frequently purchased product that's often bought with that primary one. But ideally, you're still tying all of these upsells back to the original kind of pain point or desire that you were talking about in your ad. So say the desire is say the avatar is a student. Like for us, maybe it's a student who is trying to recall all of the things that they've revised and they've put into their head, and they're trying to recall that under stress in an exam environment. We'll talk about that in the upsell sequence. So we might offer Lucid, which is our amazing sleep product, and we might talk about how the benefits of an amazing night's sleep on your stress levels, your cortisol levels, and being able to recall information, delving into the science, pulling back findings from studies. We might, this isn't an upsell, we actually do this as an example, we might be able to tangibly show how a better night's sleep in the run up to an exam results in higher exam results. And so we would talk about that. It's like, guarantee your sleep, and then that's going to help you with your exam and performing under pressure.
Very interesting. Yeah, it's there's just so much money left on the table with cross sells and upsells, and brands just don't think about it enough. So yeah, I think that was a really nice perspective.
I think starting with your persona and that whole starting with the persona and like mapping out those funnels on a general level, but then I think there's also that the need to like segment audience by products or AOV bucket when looking at those funnels, and that can take things even further. You mentioned like tech. I think Aftersell's is always the one I recommend to people if you're watching and haven't set anything up there. I think they're the best on the market and have a lot of like AI functionality that can make the process of getting things in place quite quick and easy, and you can just start to experiment from there. So yeah, hopefully people can get that going and extract some more value. Wanted to talk about affiliates.
Yeah.
We've spoken previously around like and focused a lot on like TikTok shop affiliates and mass scale affiliates, but I think wanted to drill into your experience with more of those like super affiliates.
Yeah.
Those affiliate world conference attendees, that those traffic drivers for brands. Because I think it's like you look at brands like On It by Joe Rogan, where they grew to a huge scale, and a lot of that was driven by affiliate marketing. These super affiliates are individuals who are amazing at driving traffic and conversion for other businesses, and usually charge a CPA model for doing that. So the difference between the CPA they generate for a brand and the target CPA that the brand sets, they take home in earnings. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. And normally the lion's share as well.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different types of affiliate. So there's the TikTok shop people who, they're like, they've realized that they can make money from, talking about your product organically to their audience. And then there's affiliates who are really, really good at traffic. And so initially I would sort of split affiliates into people who have a traffic they have an audience which is more influencer affiliates.
Yeah.
And then there's affiliates who are really, really good at a traffic source. So it might be like in-game apps as a traffic source, for example. It might be email, it might be Meta, Google, whatever, right? And so you can work with affiliates through a number of different channels. I mean, there's affiliate networks out there. We've worked with affiliate network DFO, run by Jordan Rollband, and that's an amazing network. And on there they have a number of offers, and so in the affiliate world, us brand owners and our products would be referred to as offers, right? Rather than products, okay? So they have offers on there, and then they marry those offers up with affiliates who have, some sort of edge normally, and they're working on a CPA basis, and they can drive sales, and they're paid for every sale they generate. You can work through other networks, which I'm not going to name drop because I don't think they're very good. Or the particular one I'm thinking of wasn't very good for us, where they more directly marry you up with an affiliate where you just put your offers on their network. Affiliates can apply to run the offers, and you're working directly with the affiliates. I like that because through the first process, you don't actually see the affiliate, right? The affiliate, the affiliate network acts as a sort of middleman. And they talk to the affiliate talks to them, and they talk to you. And so it feels weird, like this hidden person is driving sales, this person I've not met and I don't know who they are, is driving sales for my business. And that can feel weird, and you're really reliant on the affiliate network to police that. So why do you need to police affiliate traffic? Well, affiliates have been affectionately referred to me as toddlers. Right, which is a little bit harsh, potentially, but affiliates are really it's a really kind of dog eat dog world, and affiliates, if they find an offer that is winning, they know that it's only a matter of time before another affiliate finds that same offer, rips all their ads, rips all their funnels, and it's a race to the bottom. And so they want to scale that offer as quickly as possible and make as much money as they can before inevitably it gets ripped off, which is a really sad world. But
it's interesting. You actually see that on TikTok Shop
as
well.
You do.
Like, someone makes a banging piece of content, they drive serious GMV for brands, and then you go onto the TikTok Shop and everybody's made the same ad.
Yeah, it's an echo chamber.
It's so strange. Well, it makes sense because obviously they see this video, and you get quite a lot of trickle down effect from that concept on TikTok Shop. You'll often see 10 to 15 creators driving really meaningful volume if that ad has popped off. It's just interesting that you see that.
I think it's, to be honest, no different from two competitor brands. No, they just rip each other's ads.
Yeah,
over and over again.
It's a sad world that we're in. It is saddening, but it is the world that we're in. And I think the brand that is truly inspired by a winning thing and who understands their customer and understands psychology deeply to be able to truly apply that to their brand rather than just straight ripping it with no idea really why it works. That the one that actually understands the psychology going on will win because they can take that concept and run with it much better. But it's a race to the bottom with affiliates, and so affiliates want to churn and burn, right? That's the business model. They'll be running multiple offers. As one dies, they've got another one coming up, and it's a great life in affiliates. You attend an affiliate network and you can see the brand owners, you can see the affiliates, because the affiliates are the ones surrounded by magnums of champagne, just fucking living life.
Grey
right?
hat marketers.
Yeah. The brand owners are the ones who are just quietly kind of, enjoying the moment, but probably with one eye on Slack to make sure no fires are breaking out or something back home, maybe. But affiliates are wonderful to work with. And so we've got the affiliates through a network. We've got affiliates who more sort of direct, but through a sort of a matching service one that I didn't name drop because it's terrible. And then we've got what we've discussed in terms of super affiliates. Super affiliates is less, should we say, scalable or less predictable. It involves organically meeting and networking and building a relationship with people who are really good at a traffic source and organically getting to the point where you're working together. So you talk about what products you've got, and they talk about the traffic source and their experience, and you come to a way to work together where it might be on a CPA basis, it might be a sort of rev share model. It's whatever kind of makes sense that is where they're profitable and they're making at least say $5-10 per sale after their costs, and it makes sense for your business to be paying out on that model. Onnit did an amazing job of that because they figured out, with all the halo effect of that they were getting from Amazon sales and things like that, they worked out that they could actually pay, I think the AOV of the funnel was like $60 or $70, and they were paying out like $120. So they figured out, hey, if we offer $120, we can offer more as more commission for our sales of our product than any of our competitors. So all the affiliates will swarm to us. They'll generate a ton of awareness, even if they're not generating sales. And then as a result, we'll get a massive halo effect on Amazon and to a lesser extent organically on our website. And that blended effect of everything makes it worthwhile, but also, and we didn't know it at the time, they were also building up for that big acquisition that they achieved a couple of years back as well. So it's a fun space to be in, but what we know as brands and how like we're trying to build something valuable that's long term, that's acquirable. A brand is different to an offer, and a lot of offers in the affiliate space, it's just something that's created. They rip it and then it goes, and so they're less. Sometimes can be less sensitive to the things that can damage a brand, right? Like, you only need one rogue affiliate to be sort of putting all over the internet. Oh, Oprah Winfrey recommends this or whatever when she doesn't.
See that on TikTok.
And that can really, that can really damage your brand. And so you have to work closely together and communicate. But affiliates are absolute ninjas at their space, right? And that's
just
the thing.
attention arbitrage, like they just understand attention.
Yeah.
You notice that through TikTok creators as well. Just the originality in some of the creative is just crazy.
Like they have to be right on the cutting edge of what's working, right? They're almost like the innovator, and really driving forward the market as a whole in terms of just finding hacky ways to drive results.
Yeah, I mean, you might have an amazing media buyer and you might be paying that media buyer really, really well, like really, really well. But they'll get a point where if like a media buyer is that good, they work out that they can make significantly more money working as an affiliate and running offers and being able to run a whole variety, seasonality, running the air conditioning offers in the summer and the whatever, like the gifts and gadgets and running up to Christmas and so on. And they can make a lot more money doing that. And so, yeah, those affiliates, they are, as I said, cutting edge, absolutely ninjas at what they do, and often much better than the people that you can hire or work with to run your traffic. But there's the flip side to the relationship, the
loss of control.
The loss of control, exactly.
Yeah, well, we're approaching time, sadly, but I'd love to just spend the last 5 minutes digging into the next 12 months for you and the brand, but also. A secondary question there is like, where do you see us going over the next 12 months? With more of an emphasis on AI and other things. It would be great to know what your positioning is there.
So the next 12 months for us, we have a number of exciting products where we've only just scraped the surface on. Like, for example, we have a product called Cheat, where you drink it 10 minutes before your meal and it blocks up to 60% of the carbs and calories of that meal. So you can literally have a pizza and not have the downside effect of it. I think that's so sexy, so exciting. Like I'm desperate to like go ham on that. And we've got a whole bunch of other like massively innovative products, both created and about to be launched that, are so sexy as a front-end hero product offer. And so running multiple kind of hero offers for us is going to be something where we can just help more people at scale. Is really, really exciting, and obviously tons of other things, right, in the 12 months, but we've got 5 minutes. In terms of where e-commerce is going, it depends how deep you want to get into this. I know from previous podcasts you want to know, like, do I think AI ads are where it's at? But I think more broadly, I think humans will always buy things. Like in a world of AI, where AI is like, 80% of the jobs are gone and all that, I think humans will still buy things. I don't think that's going anywhere. But I think e-commerce could radically change. I think it's very, very reasonable to think of a world where your AI knows that you need, say, some new deodorant, and it just talks to an AI of somewhere else and just buys a deodorant that is suited to you, and you don't necessarily know what the criteria that went into it, which then now we're not talking funnels. Now we're not talking much of the sales and marketing. Now we're talking about positioning our products so that they're appealing to an AI with an algorithm which we don't fully understand. So I think we could almost do an entire podcast on like where e-commerce could go in the world of AI. But I think as business owners, understanding where AI could be going and trying to position our business for that is important and scary and challenging and a full-time job and incredibly exciting and interesting, depending on what lens you see it through.
So how are you thinking about AI and implementation within your own business over the next kind of 12 months?
I mean, I look at AI as a utility.
Yeah.
So, like water or electricity or internet. So everything we do, I'm like, how could AI add value to this? And being aware of the temptation to just kind of mindlessly apply AI in a way that isn't meaningful or valuable. I think, so I'm always looking at how to do it. I have, fortunately, a member of my team who's so passionate about AI. He kind of like surfaces the things that hey, you should take a look at this. And so he's filtering out 80% of the distractions that we can easily get into when we're chasing whatever's shiny. But yeah, I'm just more broadly, I'm going, how can AI is a utility, how can I utilize it in whatever it is that we're producing and whatever we're doing?
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of the time, Pete, it's like style over substance, and people are just using all of these new shiny tools, whereas actually, it's what's important is looking at what the utility is, what the objective is, like how you're measuring success of using that. Is it, efficiency gains? Is it going to drive better performance? And yeah, having that clear line of sight of what that core objective is and how you're going to measure it.
100%.
100%. We just did a podcast on that last week, if everyone wants to watch it. Well, yeah, thank you for so much for coming on. It's been great to touch on some topics that we haven't spoken through much previously. Where can people find you for those listening?
Yeah, so you can find me typing in my name, Martyn with a Y, Cook without an E, or you can check out my podcast, which hasn't had an episode in a while, but there's 170 episodes, all with 7, 8, 9-figure entrepreneurs, and I guarantee you will have heard of them. And they are evergreen because it's the stories, it's their origin stories, answers to burning questions that are relevant to every single entrepreneur. So you can check that out as well. And if you want a copy of
What's it called?
It's called Smarter Destiny Podcast.
Nice.
Check out that podcast.
God, you just made us look small there. A little episode 49 over here.
Lucky numbers.
Yours is way better.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, man. Been a
Thanks
pleasure.
very much.
Yeah, appreciate it.